Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm speaking with Brandon J, who is much better known as ïnski. He has just shared his debut EP titled Belated, and I am super excited to talk to him all about it. Brandon, I want to thank you so much for making this happen and coming on. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking, Austin. It's been a really exciting period getting this EP out. This is my first ever EP with this project,
Yeah,
first solo work. So it's just been a smooth train so far, which is great. And I'm just really happy to finally have all this music out there. It's been a long time coming.
yeah, man. Well, you can definitely feel the love come through in the music. It's super hard
Thank you.
hitting stuff. Before we get to the music, typically I like to
Yeah.
start off hearing about what it's all about, and we'll get to that. But I also want to know what your performer name is all about. What does it mean to
Yeah,
you?
absolutely.
Yeah, please.
It's not your average name, that's for sure.
It's not, but it's memorable. I will say
It
that.
is.
And in the world of music, things need to be memorable. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
So the name started actually, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs and I grew up with a Polish Irish family. And you had a lot of people with those last names like Krasinski,
Yeah,
Jaselski,
I
and
had
all
a
those Chicago names.
feeling. Right, right.
And so my parents used to, when I was little, called me Brandinsky.
Ah,
And then it developed into just Inski. And when I was trying to think of what to call this project, I thought of it as a little bigger than myself. And so I wanted to create a moniker that wasn't just, just my name. I didn't want it just to be called Brandon J's music. I wanted to have its own identity in that sense. And so I decided to call it Inski. And then I was looking at the name and something just was missing a little bit. So we did those little two dots on top of the eye
yep.
and it just looked right. And I was drawing up a logo and I was like,
And
boom,
here we
this
are.
hits, and it felt perfect,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, it's been easy to work with and describe it to people, and it's just fit the tone of the album and the project really well.
That's really cool, man. I always love to hear because normally it's like, yeah, it's Brandon Jay's music and blah blah
Hmm.
blah, but like it's a little bit of you in there as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can hide behind the name and let the music speak for itself, which I
Yeah,
enjoy.
absolutely. And this project, I've been culminating this music for a long time, but not
Right.
just within a solo project. So looking back to my family history and thinking back to memories is a lot of this introspective, reflective nature to the music that I
Right.
really try to portray through the name and through the songs themselves.
Totally. Well, the EP is six total songs for those that have not listened. The first song is this really cool instrumental that
Yeah.
kind of like, I mean, it perfectly sets the tone for what you're going to expect, and it sounds great. And then the
Thank you.
following five songs are really just like some great atmospheric sounding singer-songwritery, just like beautifulness, if that's even a word.
Yeah,
But
I'll take it.
obviously, there's a lot of depth to what you're talking about, and so I'd love to hear sort of the overarching message of what, not necessarily what each song means to you, but just like the
Mhm.
message of the EP as a whole.
Definitely. So the title "Belated" was the reason I brought that up, is because I've been meaning to release a solo work for so long, and things get in the way, work gets in the way, relationships, life, the pandemic, all these things keep rolling and kind of kept pushing this on the back burner, so to speak. And so I felt that this was a belated celebration of my own music in that sense. And the entire EP, really the overarching theme of it was being reflective, looking into the past, finding that you learn life lessons and experiences so much more often than not later than you expected.
Yeah.
And that's really what a lot of the themes touch on. And a lot of it's about relationships. There's a lot of aesthetic about traveling, seeing the world, seeing new things, experiencing new experiences, both internal, external, carnal experiences and romance and things of that nature and intimacy. And a lot of what I think we've all experienced, especially over the past year, is just, anxiety and escapism,
Yes.
because we've all just had to really reformat how we live our lives.
Right.
And so, that's something that is very true to my heart. And it's something I wanted to express in all of those songs, be it instrumental or with lyrics.
Right. I mean, if anything, it's extremely relatable for
Exactly. And I feel
everyone who's had a heartbeat this past year.
Yeah,
They can get
exactly.
it. So,
Exactly. And I think that's the best thing that a songwriter can do because, at this
yeah.
project's heart and core, it's songwriting. It's
Exactly.
crafting stories, it's crafting experiences, it's something that someone can relate to or picture something in their mind that of a memory that they can relate to that I'm sharing with them.
I agree.
And that's what I like to do with these, these kind of projects, is really just create a whole map of an aesthetic in that
Right.
sense. And I think it's turned out well.
I think so as well. Like I mentioned, though, it sounds great. It's not
Thank you.
just you and a guitar. There's so many different fun
Hmm.
effects and layers and complexities. Was it just you that worked on the production side of this, or did you have any outside help putting the EP together?
I did have some outside help. So a good friend of mine who I used to perform with when I was playing in bands. I used to play in a lot of bluegrass music and folk music and the
Cool.
jam band scene in Denver. And a good friend of mine, Alex Newton, started going into the realm of production. And we've always collaborated a lot, been really close friends, but I never had really tapped him as that role of producer. So this was he took this on, and I thank him so much. We just did all
Yeah.
this in his home studio, just in a bedroom studio. And as far as the writing was concerned, I did write out all the parts.
Okay.
And I had some really rough demos that were mostly a couple guitars and a piano and my vocals. And then when I sat down with Alex, we really started to flesh out those synth textures, the kind of broken down beat production that exists
Yeah.
throughout some of the songs like Might As Well Go or Flesh and Bone. And it really started to just grow into this more atmospheric sound. And we started to kind of try to pull in this dreamlike quality to things where people can have this sort of floating feeling that you're escaping in
It
this
comes
element.
across very clearly, and it's great
Right.
because, like, listening to it, like I said, you just as easily could have just put together like you and a guitar and been like, yeah,
Yeah,
like it's a songwriter's record, like listen to my words. But
exactly.
the fact that it's not that, and I will also just make the recommendation right now for anyone that is going to listen with a nice pair of headphones. Like, don't
Yeah.
listen on your laptop speakers. Don't like have your phone next to your
Hmm.
like really like spend the time or the money and
Absolutely.
listen to it
My
nicely.
biggest recommendation is
Please.
take a pair of headphones and take a walk
Right.
somewhere at dusk,
Yes.
because it has this feeling of the changing of day into night,
Exactly.
this solo walk through a park or through the city, seeing the neon lights.
Yeah.
And that's very much so a big part of the aesthetic. So
Totally.
I would agree with
It'll
you.
hit
Get
that
some good
much harder.
headphones. Get some
Exactly.
good headphones,
I
people. It's
agree.
worth it. I promise.
I agree. So obviously I want to keep the focus on this record,
Hmm.
but I also want to sort of look towards the future. I know
Absolutely.
that you spent so much time working on this, but do you have any idea how you might want to follow it up? Even in terms of
Hmm.
experimentation in your sound,
Yes.
future message, or just anything?
Definitely. So, as I had said, this first EP was done in a home studio, a bit more of a stripped down fashion and textural fashion.
Sure.
There was only really the live instrumentation was my guitar and my voice. Everything else was done through MIDI and synths and piano and, doing really digital production in that
Hmm.
sense. So, what I'd really like to do for the next set of songs that I record is get something that has a little bit more of a warm live feel to it.
Okay.
Get some string sections, horn sections, a drum kit, and really build it out with a bit more energy that's in that. This is a little bit more of a calm, introspective feel, and I kind of want
Hmm.
to bring up just a slight notch for what I do with some of the next songs, because some of the songs I've written out just have a more of a punching energy to them,
Sure.
and I feel like that just works better in a more studio setting, a more that warmth that I'm looking for. So that's what I hope for the future. I think,
Nice.
I would guess I have something else to release next year.
Of course.
Can't say TBD,
Yeah, no,
but
seriously, no
it's
rush, no rush.
yeah,
Bask in the success of this and bask in
yeah,
the, like I did it, I finished it. So,
absolutely. I'm definitely riding on that high of right now of just wow,
right.
this is out there, it's
I
finally
did it.
there, and it feels
Exactly.
good. It feels really good.
Did you have any? I mean, obviously, every musician has inspirations and who they listen to in their everyday life, but
Mhm.
were you trying to channel someone or something in specific when making this, or at least when trying to like craft the sound of it?
Yeah, I would say so. So, obviously everyone's influences in music as the years go on grow and grow and grow and they vary. But with this project, as I was so focused on the folk songwriter element
Hmm.
of it, I did take a couple artists that were really big inspiration. So I'd say one of the biggest ones that have always been a big inspiration to me is Iron and Wine. Samuel Beam's work is just, the warmth
Nice.
of that and
Yeah.
the soft nature of it, really good melodies and stories. And it's just always been something that's spoken to me. And then someone that I more recently started, over the past few years that really seeped into a lot of the design of these songs was Father John Misty as well.
It's one of
And
my
that's
favorite artists of all time.
He's great. He's
He's the
absolutely great.
best.
So that was, I would say those were two of the big ones. And then a little bit of the Milk Carton Kids as well.
Oh, okay.
I really love some of that dueling guitar work and the layering of the guitars that they do
Sure.
in their work. And so one thing that a song in particular that I feel like really emulated some of their work is Break It Up. And that really high strummed guitar, really non-traditional chords, and trying to just create something that's folky but isn't just your average 145 GCD kind of song.
Sure.
There's beauty in that, and there's a lot of fun in that, but I just wanted to create something that was a little more diverse in terms of the chords.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely hear all of those influences come through. Obviously, it's still very much you, but everyone has influences.
Absolutely,
There's
yeah.
more than enough music in this world. Everyone's copying or doing something from one
Hmm.
another, but it's still got that you.
Yeah, and that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. I wanted to pay, an homage to everything I've done
Yeah.
and everything I'm trying to do, but then pull in some influences of those, like just right now. What are like the past few years really hitting me in
Right.
terms of other songwriters and people that are trying to do that same craft and doing it well?
Right. Okay, so now I want you to sort of take a step back
Hmm.
before you had started writing, I guess to the point in time where you're like, I'm gonna consider making an EP. Like
Yeah,
put yourself in those shoes for a second.
sure.
Look forward to the end of the actually clicking publish button, I'm finished.
Hmm.
Was there something that you were looking forward to the most across the entire journey of writing, recording, producing, etc.?
Yeah, I think there's something, especially with songwriting, that's so therapeutic and cathartic about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big point to make with all of this. When I started working on it, I was like, I have a lot of things I'm working through and I'm working with, and I want to put them into my creative energies. I want to put those out there. And I think, you can say that of just about any artist. Someone's trying to express something
True.
and get an idea out that they can't just verbalize. And I think, you can see with a lot of songwriters, especially folks like Father John Misty, that will touch on certain themes, but put in their own personal viewpoint into things, their own
Yes.
personal experiences into things.
Yes.
That editorialism,
Right, right,
right?
right.
And so
Exactly.
while I'm not trying to write an editorial column in the newspaper or anything
Of
like
course
that, there
not.
is that element of
I
this is
agree.
how something I'm seeing and experiencing that we've probably all experienced, heartbreak, traveling, relationships,
Yeah.
modern society, things along those lines, and then putting my own twist on it.
Right. I definitely I obviously in songwriting being relatable is one thing,
Yes.
but imparting you in the music is giving your perspective and saying, here's the situation that we all know, but this is how I feel about it. And that's what makes
Exactly.
your music you.
Exactly. And that's, trying to put that signature on it, so to
Yeah.
speak. Because, as we were saying, it's not your average songwriter album. It's not me and
No.
a guitar.
No,
There's layers, there's a bit of more. I tried to make a good flow to it.
of
And
course.
I just find that, that's a big part of arranging and composing. And that's
Yeah.
something I've really become passionate about.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with songwriting, I think it's a good experience for everybody, the
I
listener, the
agree.
writer, the producer, the whole team.
Is there something that you want the listener to come away with after finishing this EP?
Yeah, I think just a moment of thoughtful pause.
Okay.
I think that, when I've shared this music before I released it with those that were close to me or other musicians that I really respected, there was often I'd play that last track and there'd just be this moment of quiet, almost reverent silence. And people just thinking, I'm going, wow, that was really an interesting experience. And that's what I want. I want this to
Some
leave a mark,
reflection.
so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I want this to be something that you remember and something that really enhances whatever you're trying to do at the time.
Totally.
Because I think that's what music's about. And I think that's what my goal as a, as a musician and just as a person is to leave positive impact on people. And that's, I think, the best thing you can do with art.
I agree, and I think with such an emphasis these days on just like catchy hooks and melodies and like stupid production gimmicks,
Sure. Sure.
that I mean, let's be real. Like you turn
Yeah.
on the radio and it's this like you don't know who's playing what. It's the same thing over and
Hmm.
over. There are artists like yourself that are actually going out of their way to break the mold,
Yeah.
and obviously, like it's not mainstream. Like it's not going to be on top 40 radio. Sorry
Hmm.
to burst your bubble, but like
Yeah.
for a good
Of course.
reason. For a good
Yeah.
reason, because
And I
it's
think
not meant for everyone.
that's the intention, right? Is,
Exactly.
looking at the craft and the music, and the goal is more emotional
Sure.
rather than just a commercial goal.
Totally.
Now, not, don't get me wrong, I won't be complaining, and if anything, got some great commercial success.
Absolutely
But
not. No
uh,
way.
there's, I think
Yeah,
realistic expectations are important for artists too.
I agree.
Especially when you're starting a new project, and
Agreed.
having that creative importance and that message of importance and that feeling is, I think, a better thing to focus on when you're in the early stages of a project. Because
Totally.
I just started this project maybe in January,
Sure.
and so it's been this year really putting this all together, and it's I'm
Awesome.
really glad it happened before the year changed. I can say that.
Absolutely. So, are you playing shows right now? And if you're not, is it something that you want to do?
I am not, but it is something I
Okay.
wanted to do.
Okay.
I played in some bands that did a lot of live shows, a lot of touring, and I loved that part of my life. It
Sure.
was being on the road, cramming into a van with five guys, eating a bunch of crappy food,
Best.
and
The
seeing the
best.
country, playing small bars, and I had a lot of fun with that.
Sure.
But there was a period of time where I kind of put that volume on the shelf. And now that I realized when live music got pulled away from us during the pandemic, I realized that's something I do want to re-enter,
Yeah.
that sphere of things. So I do plan to get some shows together here probably in the next few months. And I'm
Cool.
guessing get some things on the calendar by the early 2022. But what the band setup is going to look like, I'm not entirely sure. Because
Yeah.
this is something that I did put together so much as a solo individual. I want the density of my music to still be reflected in a live setting.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking about maybe doing like a guitar and a cello and a piano and something along those
That'd
lines.
be
So we
cool.
get some of those textured lines still, but it feels intimate.
Got
So I
it.
think that's important. Songwriters, people
Yeah.
like to have that feeling of intimacy when they go to see a songwriter perform live. At least I
Yep.
do.
No, no, no. Of course. Well, yeah. It depends on the music. If I'm going to see a loud rock band, it better be cranked up loud.
Yeah. Oh,
But
for
if I'm
sure.
going to see a musician who clearly has meaning in their song, I wouldn't want anything less than like the power of the recording, or else
Hmm.
I'd feel a little bit let down. So I understand that. If you're going to do it right.
Yeah, and I think there's such diverse opportunities for live music nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not just the typical club format anymore. You
Exactly.
don't have to have a drum kit on a riser and a lead singer raising their hands up to the skies. And
Sure. Sure.
that
I mean,
format, while it's fun, it's not the only one that exists now. We have DIY shows. We have things like So Far out there.
oh
There are
yeah.
all these kind of more intimate performances that I really think is really cool. Or these experience kind of shows where
Yeah.
you set up in a very non-traditional space and you get a small group of people. I would love to do something like that.
Nice.
I think it's
It
just
seems very doable too. And
yeah,
you,
and
you said
I
you're in
think there's
Denver, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
Denver area has a lot
Huge
of
music
that.
scene.
And I think it's just a great all around the country. I think there's a lot of that. I think LA has a lot of that, Seattle,
Yeah.
Austin, all those major hubs that I, frequent and, kind of try to ping pong around, especially Los Angeles. And it's just it's a really good opportunity, I think, for songwriters right now to do something different.
Hey man, I agree.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, in a perfect world, what does the next year of your life look like?
Hypothetically speaking, I would say I would like the next year of my life to look like more performances, starting to do some live music, starting to get my music into just different areas and starting to have a more national presence.
Sure.
Personally, for my life, I just want to be engaging with people more and starting to connect and the community of songwriters and music and folk music, I think is a really beautiful thing because we're all working with a similar craft. But as you had said before, we're all kind of putting our own twist on it, going, say, this is how I look at it. How do you look at it? And so I think ideally I'd like to have another record out by next year, playing more shows, maybe get a small tour together and really start just building this up, from no longer just this foundational space and starting to
Nice.
get building those blocks higher and higher and higher. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for that for the music world right now, which is
It's a
cool.
solid plan.
Yeah,
Solid
thank
plan.
you. I appreciate that.
All right, I've got a couple more questions for you at this
Absolutely.
point.
Fire away.
My second to last question is, because we're a music blog and we're always trying to put people on to what they should be listening to,
Mhm.
what are you listening to? Are there any local bands that you can recommend
Definitely.
or anything on your playlist that's been just on repeat lately?
100%. A dear friend of mine that I used to actually be in a band with,
Nice.
his name is Mark Pietrovito, and he's got a project called Good Folk that he started actually this year, roughly as well. He made an incredible album. It's called Thanks for Being My Friend.
Cool.
And his whole approach, it's deranged folk music for happy people.
Okay.
And it's
Cool.
great, and it's fun. It's got a slight sense of humor to it,
All
but
right.
it blends indie folk and rock really well together. And so he's been doing great. I would definitely recommend that.
Oh yeah.
He's currently based in Asheville right now, so if
Nice.
you're out in the southeast, go check him out. He should be out in LA here soon, so check him
Okay.
out there, and he should probably be playing some Denver shows soon as well.
Nice.
As far as some other local acts, there's another group of friends in a band called 10th Mountain Division.
Okay.
And they've been touring and together for a while now, but they recently came out with an album called Butte La Rose that really just, I think, has surpassed any expectations people had in the past of their music and
Cool.
really just took them to the next level. I think a lot of artists have that, where you have that experience. You've been working, you've been grinding the road, you've been releasing a bunch of albums,
Sure.
and suddenly you create this one work and it just puts you into almost an entirely different category. And so they've been doing really well. I definitely recommend them. And otherwise, some artists that I've been listening to a lot lately. Lawrence is a group I've
Oh,
been.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm familiar.
Yeah, I just think their production, the whole brother sister duo,
Hmm.
is an incredible thing. And as someone who works so often in folk and acoustic based music, it's really inspiring to see another group that's writing songs, and it's a very song written fueled type of sound,
Sure.
but it's hard hitting funk and R&B, and I'm loving that whole wave that's going on right now of this kind of
Hell
new
yeah.
funk thing that I feel like bands like Wolfpack really
Yeah.
opened the doors
Totally,
for.
totally.
Yeah.
Very
And then
cool.
I think lastly, one of my favorite groups that I always have been listening to since the early 2000s, and they recently came out with another album, I think earlier this spring, maybe early summer, is a group called Kings of Convenience.
Okay.
And it's like a Norwegian folk duo. So really good harmonies, really nice layered guitars. There's sometimes this bit of this kind of bossa nova, kind of
Ooh,
samba feel to some of the rhythms, which I really
nice.
like, but it's all very smooth. And the dynamics have this very nice even keel to it. And so I really like that.
Awesome.
And I just think, yeah, right now it's crazy. We live in a world where you can find so much music.
Anything.
It's
It doesn't
it's
end. It
overwhelming,
does
right?
not end. It
Sometimes
is
you're drowning in
overwhelming.
it.
Yeah, man.
And so I think it's nice to see when you can have that balance, seeing songwriters that were working in
Right.
different elements, at least where as it relates to me and what I would recommend to others for sure.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely make sure to check out all those people.
Definitely.
But your friend's folk band sounds particularly interesting, so I'll
Yes,
check
Good
that out
Folk
as
is
well.
fun. They actually had a
Awesome.
crazy way they took out a ranch up in Colorado in the
Oh.
mountains and built up this whole studio within this kind of cabin area.
Mhm.
Had everyone that was playing on the record staying at this ranch, and it was a really beautiful experience. I think that helped make this really unique record as well.
Very cool. All right, Brandon, I've got one more question for you.
I'm ready.
All right, get ready for the crazy one.
Uh-oh.
So, for the person that is going to discover you from this, and for the person that is going to listen to your music for the first time,
Yeah.
what is an opening message that you'd like to say to them?
Hmm. I would say an opening message would be take a deep breath and get ready.
Yeah, I mean that's really all you need.
Because I think
I agree.
you get ready to dive in and get taken to somewhere new. And so yeah, take a deep breath and get ready. And I hope you enjoy it.
I think those are great opening words.
Yeah.
Brandon, I want to thank you so much again. This has
Thank you,
been a
Austin.
fantastic conversation. I sincerely mean that. I am now
Absolutely.
personally invested in your music going forward. So thank you for making it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Austin. This has been a real treat and I
You're
really
very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
For everyone listening, for everyone who's looking for new music, Brandon Jay's perform name is ïnski, if that was not clear enough. The EP is called Belated. Stream it, play it, just experience it with nice headphones right at dusk,
Mhm.
and send it to your friends. But follow along because it sounds like there's big things on the way for the next year, and I'm excited. So
Much
I
more
want
to
to
come. Thank you
thank you
again,
so much
Austin.
again. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and
You too.
we'll be speaking soon.
Absolutely. See
All
ya.
right, man. Take care.
You
Bye
too.
bye.